Hi, my name is Owen. Today I'll be doing a quick review of Joe Abercrombie's Best Served Cold. What I want to do is give a brief overview of what the book's about, tell you things that I liked, and tell you things that I didn't like. Jumping straight into it, this is a standalone novel in Joe Abercrombie's First Law world. It's like stories of the First Law, or like world of the First Law. I forget how he exactly calls them that, but it is the first standalone he ever wrote for the series. There was three, to my knowledge, and then there's the original trilogy, these three standalones, and then there's the three of the sequel trilogy. I have read the original trilogy, and I've actually read the second and third standalones. So I kind of got those out of order. I read The Heroes, which is the second one, first, and then I read Red Country, which was the third one. I read that second, and then I just read Best Served Cold. This one takes place in Styria, I believe is the country. It kind of bounces around a lot, but it follows Monza Mercado, and she has a quest for revenge. She wants to avenge her attempted assassination against her from the Duke Orso, and as well as avenge her brother's death. So for context, before I get into this review, I just want to remind or inform you what I thought of the other standalones. I really liked the First Law trilogy. I thought it was amazing, dark, gritty, great characters. The Heroes I loved as well. It just takes place over one big battle, which I loved. I thought it was super unique. Red Country, didn't really like that much. I thought it was unnecessary. I thought it was kind of boring. However, I think me reading them out of order, even though they're technically standalones, did impact like my perception of it, because Best Served Cold I actually really enjoyed. So going right into things that I like, Joe Abercrombie never misses with characters. He always creates the most unique, but like if they're stereotypical or archetypal in any way, he's doing it in a fresh way, or putting them in a scenario where it's fresh to like interact with them. And this is just like a revenge story, right? So there's 7 people that betrayed her, and she's gonna kill 7 men, and it's just like perfect structure. She gets a ragtag group of characters, some familiar from the original trilogy, but most of them completely new. And I just thought it was really, really refreshing, like how simple the story was. Like from the very beginning, like this is a revenge story, and like Abercrombie's a great writer. He throws in some twists and turns there that make it super interesting. Which, like, honestly, some surprises at the end just blew me away. Like I was not expecting them at all, even though I probably should have. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. But my point is like, part of the reason why I didn't like Red Country is that I didn't feel like I connected with a lot of the characters. So like some of like their journeys I wasn't as invested in, and just like, and I'll get in more later my complaints, because like some of my complaints still apply to Best Served Cold. But I just didn't really feel that connected to it. But if I had read them in order, as in read Best Served Cold first, a lot of the characters that play important roles in The Heroes in Red Country are introduced in this book. Notably, like Shivers gets like, I think he was in the original trilogy. I don't really remember him from the original trilogy, but he referenced a lot of those characters, so I'm sure he was there. I just forgot about him. But he's a main character in this one, and he plays a significant role in the next 2 books. And then Friendly, Casca, he gets like a lot of time, and it's just like, I feel like if I would have read this book first and then read them, I would have like been more engaged, because a lot of the side characters in later books I have a deep connection with. So honestly, my recommendation is, if you haven't read any of the standalones, read them in order. That's not something I did, and it's something honestly I kind of regret. But other than that, like, his characters are fantastic, particularly Shivers. I love him. He's so great. And this is spoilers here, so if you don't want to be spoiled, you could stop now. But it was so interesting that Shivers in Monza did like reverse character arcs, and it was just like so smart how he did that. So like, obviously she's on her quest for revenge, and she's like, I'm gonna kill these men, avenge my brother. And then throughout the story, she's kind of realizing like, it's not worth it. It's not worth like the classic like revenge, like if you're gonna go out for revenge, like dig 2 graves, like it's not worth it. So it's kind of like that. And like Shiver starts off as like, he's like the optimist, like he wants to be a better man, but then slowly throughout the story, you realize he's getting darker and darker. He's falling down the wrong path. So they're kind of like switching perspectives. And also I thought it was really interesting that the more you read, the more you realize that like Monza, in her perspective, like, not that like she deserved, because like Duke Orso, like not a good dude, but like he was kind of justified in definitely killing her brother, and definitely trying to kill her from his perspective. And like, the reveal at the end, like again, I'm still going full ham spoilers, was that her brother was actually, because Duke Orso tries to assassinate her because he thought she was trying to take his throne, and it turns out like Benna, her brother, was actually planning that, and the whole time she's like, I was like, it was unjust, but like no, it was actually justified. There was a legitimate plot to overthrow him, so like to keep his power, he had to assassinate you, and like the whole time, like the characters' perspectives are kind of like, you maybe didn't deserve to be horribly killed, thrown off a mountain, but like you had what was coming to you, and like you're straight up like not a good person. And I just thought it was very interesting, like because Joe Abercrombie does that very well. He did that a couple times in the original trilogy with Logan Nine Fingers, where it's just like the person you think is a hero only thinks they're a hero from their own perspective, and I just think it's so fascinatingly done, and I really enjoyed it. But so yeah, the really simple plot structure of like 7 targets, like each one's like in a unique area. You got to kill them in a unique way. Like it felt like a video game almost, which was really a refreshing read. The other characters, other than like Shivers and Wanza, were also very intriguing. Morveer, the Poisoner, that was a really fun perspective. Casca, I like him, but I just think he's a little bit too inconsistent. I get that's like part of his character is like he's super unreliable, but I just sometimes it gets a little old because like he shows that he's going to be a better man or that he is a better man, but then he also just does things that it's just like, then why do that? Because it's not like an act. You know what I mean? Like, especially in Red Country, like, where he comes back and he's just like a villain. It's just like, where is the Casca from this book in that book? And also, like, tying it back to the heroes, part of the thing I didn't like about the heroes, spoilers for the heroes, my major complaint with that book was how it ended with Shivers killing Black Dow and like saving the day. Like it just felt like unearned. But with this character arc of Shivers through this book, that ending makes perfect sense. Which brings back to my earlier point, is to read them in order. So I'm kind of sad that I didn't do that. But other than that, the things that I didn't like with this book is there are issues with pacing again. This was most notably felt with Red Country when I read it. But it just kind of drags in the third act, like the beginning of the third act with the whole like coronation and stuff like that. It was like a 600-page book, and I read it on my Kindle, but it just went a little bit too long. And it was honestly a shame because like the first like half or even like probably like 3/4 of the book, I'm like, this is great pacing. I love it. Then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm bored. Why am I bored? It's because he just like, I feel like he like loses focus too much. And that might be an overall complaint of his like writing style. But overall, the book ended, it picks up at the end like it always does, and it was great. And I highly recommend it. And I think that with the reading context in mind, if you read this book, Heroes, and then Red Country, I would recommend Red Country in that order. Because originally I wouldn't recommend that book to just pick it up. But if you read all 3, treat it as a trilogy, sure. It's the Shivers trilogy. There you go. But that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you later.